Hello, this is a prepaid collect call from an inmate at the county jail. This call is subject to recording and monitoring. To accept charges, press 1. To refuse charges, press 2.
Well, hello, Miss Kayla. How are you holding out there in the jail? Yeah, I heard about that. So you'll be transferring over to the Washington Correction Center for Women. Oh, yeah, there's a lot I can tell you about that prison. And most of it isn't good, but if you follow the advice of some people that I'm going to refer to you, you should be fine. Well, see, yeah, you have a good advantage because you have a good family on the outside and you have a lot of support. And there are people that you haven't met yet that support you as well. And so my job and the job of the people that are in your support group are to get you the right connections. That way your journey will be smooth. So while you're in the prison, we can get you the support that you need. When you're transitioning out, we can get you the support you need. And then once you get out, we can see to it that there's no issues, no concerns that will lead you back to the prison. So we got you now. Well, one of the bad things I did here is there's fentanyl going into the prison. Now, the prison blames us, visitors, support people, for getting that in there, but everybody knows it's the guards. They have more of access to that prison, and it's all for the Benjamins, because there's women in there who have connections on the outside. They can get the fentanyl, and then they make arrangements with the guards, and they can get thousands of dollars for that. We had a guard at the men's prison that was making $4,000 a week. And there's good money in fentanyl. And then getting it in there, paying the people off. I mean, you're talking thousands and thousands of dollars. And that's a fantastic motivator. And then just needing the connections, that right there is taken care of, because these folks in there, they're willing to share the names and contact information for a lot of people. And, in a case, you can always drop the middleman. If the guards get a good connection with the people that are out here dealing with it, who knows what could develop. I know some of the dealers, and I know some of the methods that they use to get in there. And so what we want with you is to avoid all that. Just stay away from it. It's better to get out, be free, and then be poor than to have all this money and just take that risk. It's just not worth it. And they made the motions of trying to deal with it once it was caught, because anybody that was even suspected of drug use or tested positive for a drug test, they went to segregation. And I guess in a way to sweep it out. But let's face it, if a person in prison wants something, it can be brought in there. Just like the people on the outside. If they want to go in and kill people with an AK-47, they can get an AK-47, whether it's banned or not. We tend to underestimate the criminals out here, and we tend to underestimate and degrade those who are locked up. They have a lot of knowledge. And that's not the kind of knowledge that you want to pick up.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
I mean, it's an advantage if you want to fight it later on because you know the sources, but try your best to avoid that. Oh, yeah. Once you get there, I'm going to give you the names of some people, and I'm even going to let those folks know to come over and put you under their wing. They're more than willing to do that, and they'll help you get through these bad situations for sure. Well, good. Keep in contact. Remember, you're not alone. You have a huge support group out here, and we care about you. We want to see you succeed.
You have 30 seconds remaining.
Yeah, I know we all make mistakes. Like one woman told me, she said, we all make mistakes. It's just that I got caught. And that's just it. I mean, you made this mistake, and before you had a chance to realize what was going on, here you are in jail. But don't let that bother you. We'll get through it. Okay, well, you have yourself a wonderful day, and thanks for the call. Okay, yes, you too. Stay strong, and don't let this stuff get under your skin.
Thank you for using Inmate Call. Goodbye.
Hello, welcome to AQS Inmate Call. I am your host, Joel Wilborn, and in this episode, I do something I don't traditionally do, but it proves a point and gives you an idea of what's going on within the penal system, particularly in the state of Washington, not necessarily all across the United States, but you can find a lot of this activity in any given prison. Now, recently, I was told about fentanyl being brought into the women's prison in the state of Washington. And I get a lot of inside scoop of what's going on, and people are referred to me to share their story about some of the abuses and activity that's going on in the prison, both male and female. And a common thing is for the drugs to get in there and people overdosing, because you've got addicts. They get into prison, they're going to do anything they possibly can to get that fix, and these prisons are accommodating them, whether they like it or not. Now, with fentanyl in there, and I'm hoping they're going to do that thing, but I'm going to keep an eye on it to make sure they can keep that from reoccurring. I doubt it, because they can pretty much get anything they want, but it's going to be interesting to see what they do and how they deal with it, because prison guards usually don't get prosecuted. You rarely ever hear them being prosecuted for rape or helping somebody escape or presenting contraband in there, because they've got this little community that they live within that protects them, and they watch out for each other. Doesn't mean it doesn't happen. I mean, after all, Gary Ridgway was poisoned by a prison guard, and you don't hear him going to prison or anything like that. And so with this little clique going on in the prison, we really have to keep an eye on it. And I'm hoping that if people keep supporting the prison system and wanting to send people away, we need to at least hold them accountable for everything that goes on in there. And the only way to do that is to get the information out. Now, there was an occurrence in March of 24 where one inmate was having sexual intercourse with another. Now, that's not uncommon in any of the prisons, but this one made the news because the information was leaked by a guard who obviously did not like this kind of activity going on, men and women having sex in the prison. But this cellmate is a transgender woman who had sex with a female inmate. And just to give you an idea of the story behind that, it started with a man named Bryan Kim. He was found guilty in 2008 of murdering both his parents, stabbing his father to death in Washington State, then bludgeoning and strangling his mother. This is what we call a violent offender. Now, when Bryan was convicted and sent to prison, he discovered he's actually transgender. He's a woman. And he demanded that he be transferred to the women's prison. Now, the state of Washington is real good at accommodating that. We don't all agree with it. And even a lot of transgender people don't agree with it because it's making them look bad. It's like for me, when black people go out and commit all these crimes and then people are turning against the black folks, it makes me look bad. And we can't judge all people based on the actions of one. And so That's why I give all transgender people benefit of the doubt. I've talked to many that transgender women that are attracted to men. They're sitting in the women's prison. They could care less about the people that surround them. They're interested in the male guards, interested in the male visitors and pictures of males, and they're truly playing a part of a woman, as far as I know. I have no problem with that. They have no problem with that. Other folks have no problem with that. It's the people like this Bryan Kim person, who now goes by the name Amber Kim. Now, when I read articles on this incident that happened, they're saying that a lot of things could have happened. Could have been rape from these transgender women, could be consensual, could be pregnancy, it could be kind of like maybe a little business or something going on. There's all kinds of things that could come up of this. And you think that this was exposed, and I'm finding out myself. I was told by another inmate, but for a guard to give this information out, and I've been told also that a lot of the folks in there don't like these biological men being in there, and that's one of the reasons. But the state of Washington moved Amber Kim out of the prison after this incident back to the male prison where she originally went. And not too many people are arguing against that, because this person, even if it were true that she's a woman, she's not acting like one. And yeah, women to women sex goes on in there. The same thing in the male prison, male to male. And that's a little more easier to accept. And they're not as big on consensual sex as non-consensual sex. And so to justify what he did, it's like she coaxed me, and I could not resist. I had to have sex with her. And the guard reported seeing him nude from the waist down, him lying on the floor and her on top of him. And this was something that he just was coaxed into doing. So you have Amber Kim, who was very, very upset. He actually was protesting, wanted to go back to the women's prison. Had an article done, and the internet article, Huffington Post, that was doing a story on him. And this was before he was in prison, but he was announcing himself to be a female, and he was in the male prison trying to get transferred over. So what they did, so Huffington Post went over to the prison and interviewed him, and he was talking about all the stuff that he was going through and how he's being mistreated and how he's really a woman. And when they transferred him over to the women's prison, and then he was found having sex with Censore Nerton, HuffPost went over and did another story. And this one was where they were referring to their first story and saying that he should never have been transferred over. He wants to go back. He's going to do a hunger strike. It's just amazing how this guy is claiming to be a woman. Now, of course, Censore says he's lying about a lot of this stuff. And I can't see any reason why not to trust her in this. And she's receiving a lot of flack because the other inmates in there claimed that she accused him of rape, and that's why he was transferred over to the male facility. Now, for a woman that's in prison, you have the women who are attracted to women, and for them to sneak off in the corner and have sex, they're happy. But there are those who like to have sex with males. And since a lot of the guards don't do that, or they don't want to go through the process of winning over a guard, another inmate as a roommate for him that's built like a man is acceptable. And so this person who is very open, I guess, kept them happy, and so they were very angry at Sensore. But Sensore said, no, I did not list him as raping me. This was consensual. And with her, she's human. She likes males, and got caught up in all of this. So she's receiving this flack on that side. Now, the public isn't too concerned about his objections, because it's hard to say, I belong in the female prison. Well, if he's not strong enough to resist these urges that he allegedly got, then you need to be in the male prison. Because I don't know. Maybe the males will urge him. Hey, let's do something. Let's go into the corner, and maybe he'll fall to that too. That might redeem him. It's like I'm just weak-minded. That's the reason I did that. But, he claimed in the article that it had happened several times. This wasn't the first time. So how on one occasion can you say I was coaxed into it, and then another one it's like I had intercourse several times? Is he talking about with this one person or with multiple people? And he wants to try to look at that as being something everybody does. But this time I was transferred out. Well, he has that history. And as a lot of folks will say, you commit the crime, you do the time. You knew what you were getting into. If I broadcast this stuff and let folks know these things can happen in prison and these things do happen in prison, will that deter people? I hope so. I hope one or two will look at that and think, I don't want to get caught up in there, especially those who really are trans people. They could look at it and say, I'm a trans woman. I belong in a women's prison, but if I get arrested for a crime, I could go to the male prison and I could be taunted and I could be attacked and assaulted and abused and raped. All these things could happen. And I don't want that. So I'm not going to commit a crime. Maybe. That's just me dreaming it. Or there could just be a person who says, wow, I've committed a crime, but I can claim to be a woman, and I can go to the women's prison, and as long as I stay in the shadows, I'll be okay. And that's like a running joke. If you get arrested in the state of Washington, claim to be a woman, and they'll put you in the women's prison. I'm not a big fan of that, because I think when a person's being evaluated, and I know on the Washington Department of Corrections website, they're claiming that these issues on social media are false. But if you're going to evaluate somebody before putting them into a certain prison, male or female, does this person have a history of being transgender? In the state of Washington, if a 8-year-old says, I want to be the opposite sex, the parents could say, no, stay away. We don't want you transferring over to a woman or a male. The child could leave, go to the protection of the state, and do a sex change. And so if you have somebody like that who's 8 years old, I don't know why the state allows them to make that decision, but that's what they do. if a 8-year-old is saying, I'm really a woman, let's say an 8-year-old boy says, I'm really a woman, a girl, and grows up like that, goes to school identifying, dresses like one, tells the parents like that, and the parents would fine, like, go ahead, dress like them, we don't care, just don't do the sex change. And then this person grows up and commits a crime and says, I'm really a woman. You look back at the history, could be for the last 10 years, this person dressed as a woman, acted like a woman, hung out with the woman, was accepted as a woman. I could see that person going to a woman's prison. That's not to say that they won't attack a woman or be taunted into it, but I could see that happening. Now, Censore says she doesn't trust this person anymore. You know, Amber Kim is a liar. Lied in the articles, lied about being transgender. It could be that Censore was interested in transgender women because to her it was kind of an okay thing to do. But, you know, I had to transfer some articles to her, and she said, looking at that, she's done. And to convince her, the one that was the second person involved, I didn't have to say anything because for me, que sera, sera. But when I hear it from people, when other people are saying that she never should have been transferred to the male prison, they don't have the backstory. Censore obviously has the backstory now, and since I sent her the Huffington Post articles, she was able to read it herself, and now she sees it in a different light because she knows both sides of the story. And that's the best way to get it out. It's both sides of the story. Censore is not the same person she was back then. She's got a lot that's going on. When people go into prison, there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of guilt. They want to make a change. They don't want to be in that environment. And to be mistreated by everybody, the staff and the other inmates, is very uncomfortable. And so for her to stand her ground is commendable. And for her to grow. I'm watching her grow. I've watched a lot of people grow. Marianne Atkins, she was just a bad girl when she was in the Washington Correction Center for Women, and she left and went to Echo Glen, where she saw the light. She got to services she should have gotten a long time ago. She got the support she should have gotten a long time ago. And now that she's back in the women's prison, she's stronger and she's more educated. And when the people come at her like they did when she was this little innocent teenager, she can fight back very well. And she's a great role model for people. And that's the kind of stuff that we want. When a person goes to prison, we want them to get the right resources to overcome these urges to commit a crime. It doesn't always work, but it's going to be a definite failure if we don't at least put forth that effort. If you're going to have biological males in a female prison, you're going to have to keep a bigger eye on them. We had a person who committed suicide in there, and I'm getting a message that there's another story to that. There's something behind it. Yes, I want to do that story. Was this person murdered? Was this person led to committing suicide? I'd heard that she broke up with her girlfriend, and it was tough on her. That doesn't necessarily mean it's true, but it is possible. And it's worth looking into, because these relationships can cause more problems. I know there's people that go to segregation and their girlfriend is very upset, and they'll commit an infraction just to get thrown into segregation so they could be with their loved one. Why isn't the prison looking into this? We've got all these people in prison with different psychological needs, different desires, different motivations, and they should each be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. Sensory doesn't need to be treated the same as the transgender people, or maybe lesbians in there. She has different things that got her to where she is, and those need to be dealt with so that when she comes out, she can live a normal life and put all that stuff behind her. She went in very young. She's a lot more mature now. Yeah, when you go in as a teenager, teenagers are expected to make mistakes and do crazy things, and I don't think we should use that against them. So that should put her in a different category than when this Bryan Kim went in the prison. He was older, and so to see that is just more or less like, we got to deal with it. We got to look into this. But to do that, we need to put the pressure on them. So now you know. So if you know anybody that's going to the women's prison, remember that and reach out and get to the good people. They're the ones that's going to help. And support groups really do make a big difference. Well, thanks for tuning in. Please discuss this with your friends, family, and loved ones. And let's try to put a end to this crime wave and help people by being proactive instead of reactive. Well, go out and have yourself a marvelous day and make fantastic memories for tomorrow.